world. Here we are, fresh in for Freshly Pressed. I've got my two analysts with me for a Wednesday, and I always look forward to Wednesday mornings because that's when I get to have Lakunle and Devo Okore in the studio with me discussing news on the national forum. Good morning, gentlemen. I'll start off with you, Lakunle. It's been a while. How are you?
Good morning, Shopware. It's a great day and good to see you after.
Yeah,
Great.
fantastic.
Really?
Devo, Eku. What are we going with today?
Cool. No kudos for doing your job.
Okay, then. There you go. Wonderful to have you on the show as well. And you, of course, Lagos, Nigeria world. If you are tuning in via YouTube, then hello, welcome, YouTube. And make sure you leave your comments up on that live stream. YouTube.com/smooth981FM is the place to go if you want to go and see what happens in the studio. You can also join the conversation on WhatsApp. That number to send WhatsApp messages to is 0809 4440981. You can use +234 if you are out of the country to get into the right country code. And then you can also take it to Twitter. We are at Smooth981FM. Use the hashtag FreshlyPress981 and get your comments in to the right place. I'll read all the messages. Well, I'll read as many of the messages as we can handle for the next half hour as we start in on the story. So, Devon, I'm going to start off with you because we have this one in from the Daily Trust. ASU decides on strike suspension Thursday. So tomorrow is just around the corner. On Monday, hope bloomed that the lecturers might just be calling off the strike. However, a member of the National Executive Committee, National Executive Council of the union, who pleaded anonymity, said that it's not being called off yet, saying, and I quote, "What is flying around is just a mere rumor. There are ways how to handle this type of issue in ASU. Our NEC will meet on Thursday to take a decision." What say you?
What say the people? Really, as you said it, hope boomed, and I'm really wondering where that hope is coming from. Some say it was the ASU president's disposition, in responding in terms of gratitude to the Speaker of the House intervention. However, I mean, let's not slaughter the idea of hope on the platter of politicking, because what ASU has been on lockdown for almost 8 to 9 months, we don't know the position. Neither has the FG nor ASU given us an update. So it's not so much about, oh, they're going back to class. What about why you locked down your doors for the past 8 months? All the positions starting from the revitalization fund. Remember, they had rejected the Minister of Education's Adamu's position to capture it in the 2023 budget. So what did they agree with the House? Secondly, the outstanding earned salaries and allowances. What did they agree? The issue on Utah's IPIS and the UP3 software position. What was agreed? Because I remember from the last position from NITA, they said that all three platforms failed scrutiny. Then the issue of financial autonomy. In one position, the Minister of Education said they won't be privatizing. The Minister of Labor said, well, financial autonomy has been granted ASU. But we are clearly aware that for many years, many universities have attempted on their own to even try and raise internal generated revenue. But each time the University Council, as well as the Ministry of Education, knocks them for taking those decisions. And this is the meat and the substance behind why they've been on lockdown. Why are we waiting for a meeting? Why is it not clear? How did such matters of national security and public interest become hidden under closed doors? Now, my issue is this. You see, we can't bury our heads in a bid to sweep these issues under the carpet. I can hear many people saying, let them go back to school. Let them just open those school doors. Even though there's a court.
Won't it be like the closing of the borders, i.e., when they were reopened, things just got worse?
Yes.
Because nothing had been done in the interim.
And like I've always said, many of the people clamoring for the students to go back, even if your children are at home, have you been to those schools? Have you visited them to see the decrepit nature of where you are sending your own kids to? After all, for those who are among the elite and those who have tried, their children are abroad, so they really don't have to worry. Their own children are not going back to dilapidated classrooms, laboratories, dormitories, where sickness and illness or where there's insecurity. Come on.
Though, I would ask you, for those parents that you're talking to, the people you're talking to now, I mean, what would you say to them if they say, are those dilapidated rooms going to get any better in the short term? Isn't this a long term thing? So why can't the students go back?
And that is why I'm saying that as citizens, it is our duty now. It's not just about ASU to carry this matter on our heads and ensure that the federal government prioritizes education. You know, I've always said this, and it's clear for a federal government that has had sleepless nights over politicking. Remember when it was time for the primaries? They didn't sleep. Both sides, both the major party and the ruling party and the opposition. But they're not having sleepless nights over this ASU matter. They're not batting one eyelid over it. It's not disturbing them. And until we as citizens take education serious, the federal government will neither take it serious. So the joke is on us. The duty is on us to ensure that we get our tertiary institutions to where they should be. There are many options out there. We said it time without number. So I'm not so optimistic of what is going to happen on Thursday because I will literally blow a fuse if ASU goes back to school and then we come back to this same position a few months down the line.
Okay, so Devo, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hop onto another story that I want to discuss. This comes in from the. Hold on one second. It comes in. Sorry, I've lost it now. From the Punch newspaper, there we go. Presidential fleet funding rises to 81 billion naira under Buhari. So this article talks about a lot of things. It's interesting that they led with this for the headline, saying that the budgetary allocation to the presidential air fleet has risen by 121% in 8 years, because the presidency has maintained 10 aircraft. And I know that you will want to touch on that for a bit, but later on in the article, talking about the 2023 proposed budget, right? They talk about education and what has been put in for education, which is a total of 1.078 trillion naira budgeted for education, down from 1.18 trillion naira, which was about 7.2% of last year's budget, and falls short of what the federal government had promised back in July 2021 at the Global Education Summit, which was to meet up with the global benchmark of 20% budgetary allocation for education. And obviously this one has now even gone down for 2023. So Devo, now that's also what I want to just join into your discussion.
Yes, like I said, this administration has shown that education is not a priority. Now, my issue is this: the federal government is limited in its capacity. Nobody's saying that they have it all, because as you can see, we're losing money in terms of with crude oil theft and also the subsidy payments. There are major leakages in the federal government's framework in terms of budgeting and financing. The debt service alone, I mean, the projection for 20 trillion was simply because our debt is maxing about 10 trillion. If you're paying back what you're making, then what are you going to spend? So they had to literally add another 10 to take care of issues within the next year. So people, we don't have enough time to discuss the cancer in the 2023 budget. But the point is this: Nigerians, your future is in your own hands. If you don't sit down and begin to decide for yourselves where and what should be taken serious by this federal government, at the end of the day, we're not going to get the results that we're looking for. And like I said, where the federal government is weak and not able to fund adequately, maybe they should have put financial autonomy at the front of the table, just like most private schools or shared ownership schemes abroad. Maybe the private sector should have come on board in one way. If the federal government cannot fund 45 federal universities, maybe they should fund one in each geopolitical zone and liberalize the remaining 39, so that these schools can come up to par. What is known as this: we must get quality education. Many of us enjoyed quality education in this country at very low rates. How come we're accepting something less than the best for our children? I don't agree with that. I don't agree that we should manage. I don't agree that we should just take it. Let birds, let sleeping dogs lie. Let everybody just go. No, our children must be trained properly, or else our productive future is in comatose position.
Now, with a view on 2023, like I want to ask you about this article in from the Nation. I'll leave a secured country, Buhari assures Nigerians. To which I say I'll be grateful for that if it does happen. What do you say?
Yes, I agree with you. It's the desire of every Nigerian to be able to go to sleep at night are not worried that somebody's going to knock on the door or want to travel from
Very polite
Lagos
of them, by the
to
way.
Kotangora, are not worried about being kidnapped or
Mm.
whatever. Having said that, I think that this President Buhari has used the word will too much in almost everything in the last 7 years, and it's almost becoming like a cliche. I will do this, I will do that, I will do that. Right. Yes, we also have to recognize the recent successes that the security forces have recorded against
Operation
in
World Punch has
operation
been
in,
doing well.
well, yeah, the ones we've had in recent times and all that. But having said that, a secured country should not be reactive. It should be proactive, it should be preemptive. And how can that happen? We have at various times at this table spoken to how we think this can happen. We need to reorganize our police. We need to re-strategize on how do we, what policing system we want to use. Are we decentralizing? If we are maintaining the current one, can we recruit more people into the police? We have only
Because we really
50,000
need those
that
numbers.
cannot handle 200 million people. We need to be sure that our borders are practically impregnable. We need to equip the police. We need to train them. If we're not doing all those things, we will only be reacting to things like what we have on ground today.
Lakame, for what you've just said, that proactivity, doesn't it cost money?
That's
Do we
what
have it?
that is. See, whatever it is, see, we cannot say we want to have a secured country without being ready to spend money to make it happen. What is more important? What is important to us as a country? Security.
Mhm.
Security covers many things.
Mhm.
Food security,
Mhm.
security to lives and property,
Environmental
security. How do those things happen? It's going to cost money. So we must be ready to walk the talk. If we want to do it, we must have to find it somehow. So that is the situation. Now, if we don't do all these things, we would only be speaking English all the time. We will still worry about kidnapping. We'll still worry about armed robbery. We'll still worry about smugglers taking our stuff across the borders and bringing in illegal things into Nigeria and so on and so forth.
And
And
the
then we'll
drugs.
spend more.
The drugs and the arms. Because,
Exactly.
huh,
Then we will spend more trying to stop it from happening. Security is much more about those things that you don't see, not about those ones that you see. Because if we don't know the number of people who carry large sums of money on their persons and walk around the streets of Lagos, for example. But the moment you see a bullion van with a noise, you know, okay, it's carrying money. So who is probably more secure of the two in that instance, for example? So we must invest in security. We have to. We must do the right things. Involving the army. Name one state in Nigeria today that the military is not involved in one security effort or the other. And that is not their primary assignment. It is because the people who should do the job are overwhelmed. Why are they overwhelmed? They are not enough in number, they are under equipped, they are ill trained, and so on and so forth. So those are the things we must speak to.
now you've talked about recruitment for the police force. Let's talk about recruitment in the NSCDC, because with recruitment comes issues apparently. From the Daily Post, reps to investigate NSCDC recruitment and promotion. So the investigation. Let me just go over this. So it's going to cover alleged irregularities in staff recruitment and promotion over the last 10 years. Basically, they said that the NSCDC has not been observing the principles of federal character in its recruitment, and there's a lot more that goes into it. Take it for us, please.
Okay, so taking off from where? Can we name one government institution, federal government institution in this country that this issue of what's it called, federal
Federal
character
character.
thing doesn't come in? There's hardly none. Start with your NNPC, the civil service, everywhere.
If you can
So
name one, people, please feel free. You know the different
exactly,
platforms.
I'll be so
Twitter,
glad to hear
WhatsApp,
one
YouTube.
that this federal character thing don't come up at all when it comes to things like this. Now, for me, uh, crime does not recognize faith, creed, orientation, whatever. So also, if crime does not recognize all that, the enforcement should also not recognize all that. The Nigerian Civil Defense Corps was set up by an act of the National Assembly to complement the effort of the police. I think there was an amended one in 2007 or thereabout, maybe 2007, 2009. When you look at the act and the powers that this corps has, you would imagine that Nigeria is running two parallel policing systems because they have power to bear arms, to try people, to arrest people, to detain people, to prosecute cases. But in also Act also says that one of their major jobs is to secure our pipeline. It was written like that, verbatim in the Act. I can't remember the exact how it was written, but it is there. And to prevent land and property, so on and so forth and so on. So now the issues for me here is it that people from other states or from specific states don't apply to join the Civil Defense Corps, or they applied and they are ignored? Is it that deliberately they don't advertise this thing? So these are the things we expect this investigation into this thing to unearth. So in terms of promotion, did they write an exam? Did they ignore the result of the exam? Did they promote those who didn't pass over those who passed, and so on? So we will be looking out for the outcome of this National Assembly investigation to see. It would be nice to see by numbers, by state, numbers by state of recruitment in those 10 years. State A, what number? State B, what number? The promotions that has happened in those 10 years by state of origin too. Why? If we can also see the scores that all the people that were promoted in that time scored in the promotion exams, if there was any, or if it was random. So if we see this kind of things, then we can begin to see, we can begin to assure ourselves that something is really wrong, and then maybe it's time to review this federal character thing, whether we want to junk it, whether we want to continue to do it, because every time we keep hearing this thing coming up, and it's sowing bad blood everywhere.
Well, the Committee on Interior, Federal Character, and Public Service Matters is going to be investigating staff quota and promotion exercises, like you had questioned, and also they had one of the issues that they had come up with was the fact that a recruitment exercise had been done without advertisement, with over 90 employment letters returned to the headquarters from Imo State, as those who were to receive their letters did not show up, and those slots were reported to belong to River State indigents.
That's an example of what I'm talking about. That people are not taking up those slots if they were assigned to those states.
All right, now we'll go over to your messages before we move to Nigerians in the diaspora. From Sir Ken, we have this one. ASU had better have gotten something really concrete with the government, unless they just want to come and be going. Jane says, Devo at ASU, please add where computer class is still Fortran 77. We used a classmate's dad's notebook in 1997. The only thing that changed was punctuations. Dami from Ikeja says, says Devo, you're going to be buying a lot of fuses in a very short time. Whilst Yinka Bolu says, why are both parties being hush hush about their negotiation meeting? It means that both parties are not true. ASU is concerned about the state of education. Kind of seems strange to me because that's ASU themselves, thrived on intimidating students for years. What changed suddenly? The only thing I see is IPPIS and UTES and nothing more. Moreover, the federal government took ASU to court and got a victory. ASU went to the appeal court and lost. So why is it like ASU is being considerate going back to the classrooms? There is a court, he puts this in caps lock by the way, for emphasis, there is a court ruling instructing you to go back to class. I expect Mr. Rule of Law, aka Files the Kid Guy, to explain this to his clients. All right then. Who else do we have? Atayo saying ASU calling up the strike is so commendable and complex that the Minister of Education should be awarded a national award based on merit. And the statement on Mr. President on security is sounding like ratio. We've got this one in from Wale, who says, I agree with you on financial autonomy, and it is frankly the way forward. But the downside is some will not be able to send their children to school anymore, as school fees will surely go up. See, with everything, there is an advantage, and there are costs, and there are benefits. So at this point, do the benefits outweigh the costs? Nero Cello from Ogudu says most politicians don't want citizens to be well educated. This tactic is one major way to control minds. They need the majority to be in this category so that they can win the elections. Until we get a few people who are not typical politicians into power, we're not going to be making any progress. And the promise to leave a secured country by this government may be possible. All right, let's take a look now at more. We'll talk about this one that comes in from the Vanguard and talks about Nigerian doctors in UK lamenting exploitation and slave labor, with those willing to talk about their situations, describing grueling working conditions such as working 24 hours a day for a week at a time. Devo, so we have really focused on kind of the brain drain that's been happening from Nigeria to the
Yep.
rest of the world, but I don't think we've actually focused on Freshly Pressed at any point on the fate of Nigerians, well, apart from with Ukraine, but on the fate of Nigerians once they
Mm.
actually leave the shores for those greener pastures. And now we
Yes.
are seeing news, a lot, by the way, lots of news about Nigerians coming from the UK. Looks like we might not be having a good time of it in the recent future.
Mm.
But let's focus on this now. Exploitation and slave labor conditions in the United Kingdom.
Yes. It seems as if those pastures are not as green as many had expected. And this was coming from some investigation taking place with the BBC, with these many complaints and petitions that Nigerian doctors, or literally African doctors, those that were being brought into and hired into the NHS, were being exploited. And one of them, his name was
Wait,
Augustine.
hold on, not the NHS. They were being the NES. It was a private
Yes,
healthcare
was a private
provider.
healthcare provider who employs people to act as resident doctors within their systems. Now, one of the doctors, Augustine Enekwechi, upon investigation, when he was speaking to the BBC, did mention that, and this is where he missed it. He said that they were asking him to work literally 24 hours for a whole week, which he said was not possible, and that whenever he decided to take a break or to catch his breath or to even rest, his salary would be deducted.
As
Now,
it was in the
yes,
stated in the contract.
and he said that when he had gotten his contract, he rejoiced and literally signed without reading. Now, we do that all the time. We jump without looking. So literally, he jumped from frying pan into fire. And part of that contract states that the right to defense will be relinquished. And that right to defense is if you believe your employer is putting you through undue or excessive hours on the job. And then, like I said, they punish them with deductions when they like to take breaks, etc. Now, the thing is this: the WHO has looked at this, and in some instances, they have warned about the active recruitment of doctors from developing nations, especially Nigeria, because under the BBC's literal investigation, what they said was that they found out that 92% of the recruited doctors that come from foreign nations were from Africa. That's
Mm-hmm.
literally all of them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And 81% of that 92% were from Nigeria. Bagong, bagong, bagong. And they now mentioned that that despite the fact that doctors were complaining, those that have been going abroad within Nigeria, there's still a push. Many people are leaving in their hundreds, in their droves. They still want to leave. So it's ironical. There's a paradox here. Despite the slavery and exploitation we're hearing about, you still have people saying
So what
they
I'm
want to
going to
go.
what I'm going to say, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but they are
Mm,
living in a contract society, and there are checks and balances in place. However,
mm,
part of this drive to leave your country, um, so much so that you don't check a contract that you're signing
mm.
that's going to regulate your time at work. I'm not sure. Are we talking about the burden of responsibility on the individuals to secure their future?
Well, the truth is this. In as much as anyone should actually read the dotted lines, as they used to say before. I mean, remember the times we used to discuss about this with the music industry, where musicians get signed on labels, and then many years down they start complaining,
Mhm.
"Well, I was only meant to get 2 cents out of a dollar," and they're like, "Well, it was there from the beginning."
And by the way, musicians are now have wisened up.
Yeah.
Can we
So
say?
medical doctors, am I advising them to japa and read their contracts well? No. My point is this: just I remember the case of the our girls who were taken off under human trafficking towards Mali. And when the National Institute of Trafficking, NAPTIP, went there, the girls in Mali told them, please leave us here. We're seeing this over and over in different sectors and scenarios where Nigerian citizens are willing to take the harsh conditions of welfare abroad in different countries, be it Africa or even Europe and America, as a trade-off for living in this country, for working in this country. That shows you the degree and harshness and hostility of working conditions within this country. So the truth is this. This is just like a temperature check. The federal government doesn't really have to react to this. You signed, you went on your own. You could have stayed back, right? You can still come back if you want. So it's the burden is on the us as citizens once again, because our government has been failing. So I'm no longer really going to look at the government. I'm going to look at citizens to mount pressure on governments to take the decisions required to be able to improve working conditions for health workers within this country. Or in the long run, we're going to lose literally all of them.
All right, let's take a look at this one from The Guardian. Because jobs are being created. Lakenly, Wike appoints 14,000 advisors and 359 liaison officers. Over to you.
Why are you
Well,
laughing?
that's a way to start
It's
the
job,
analysis.
it's not employment.
Wow. 14,000.
Big numbers.
6 months to go. 14,000. To do what exactly? To advise him on what? He spent the last 3 months or thereabouts fighting his party members at the national level for whatever reason. What are they going to advise him about? Why does he have commissioners? Why those commissioners will probably have advisors and assistants as well? What are the duties of the senior assistant, the SSA, the SA, and all that I already have? He already has all of those ones. Now, the lesson here for me is that I think we focus too much on the federal government and everything federal government, while the governors, the local government chairmen, the lawmakers at all levels get away with practically everything, including blue mother. And this is what I'll categorize this as. This is pay day for the boys. I'm going, come, let me pay you off. That is what this is. And these are the kind of things that ASU, for example, will see and say, cost of governance is high. Why can't they spend that money on the university? I think this is irresponsible of a governor to do this at this time or at any time at all. If you say you want to be governor, that means that you have some degree of capacity. That degree of capacity should not be less than 50% of what you need to govern a state, to lead the government of a state. You do not need 1,000 advisors. You do not need 20 senior, what do they call those things? Senior SSA, senior special advisors. You do not need 20 special advisors to do the job. That's why you have your House of Assembly to make the laws. You have your commissioner, you have your directors and permanent secretaries and directors in those ministries to advise you on all these things. And creating jobs is not, now, are they going to create offices for these people and all that? So this is irresponsible and it's not something people should applaud at all.
All right, let's take a look at your messages coming in on WhatsApp. I see on YouTube as well, but there's no name to that message in a very strange. I don't think I'd ever seen that before. Dr. I at CMS says the story of doctors is a non-starter as the UK has protocols to address these complaints. But in Nigeria, where similar slave practices occur, there's no recourse to authorities. So, next story, please. B from Lucky says, why does ASU want financial autonomy? If there are teething issues with the IPPIS, that should be addressed. The government has invested way too much in the system for it to be jettisoned by the academic institutions. Mecca from Amuo says, Nigerian doctors are not the only ones complaining about the working conditions in the UK. Many doctors, especially junior doctors, are even leaving the NHS due to this issue. Even at that, the situation is far better than what we have here. And Michael A says the contract is illegal and not enforceable in law. You can't make people work more hours than the law permits. Whilst Mary from K2 says Slavery 2.0 loading. Developed nations do not care about us. We need to work on our nation. And I'll read this one from Tayo, who says, Shakwa, make no mistakes, your opinion is not unpopular. You'd rather be exploited in a society with basic amenities and basic human right laws than in Nigeria under the exact same circumstances. Doctors Japan will definitely continue because, despite news like this, rather. And the messages do keep coming in, but we need to end freshly pressed. And I need to say a big thank you to my analyst. You can find Lakunle. He is at Lakunle70 on Twitter. Thank you so much, Lakunle. Vivo Korea, thank you. And we shall be seeing you at 9 o'clock for
Yep.
Lagos Talks.
Yep,
Maybe
yep,
we'll
yep.
be talking about the doctor situation. Who
Maybe.
knows? Who knows? Join us to find out what the topic is and to share your thoughts on it. Coming up 8:15, we've got sports news for you inside the locker room.
Right. The
Thank
stories.
you.
We didn't
Bye. YouTube.
do,
Bye.
we didn't do national awards.
No, we didn't. We
The
didn't get
story
to.
didn't make.
We did
Actually,
not.
it was where he talked about the security. I'll leave security.